So, Grant, what key elements would you expect to see in a well-run marketing operation these days?
Yeah, so I would say to people there are 3 elements that they should think about. So I talk about marketing operations, which is an unusual term. Most people don't think of that. And I talk about that being your digital media landscape. So you own a website, you might be using Facebook or Twitter or YouTube or whatever else, but those channels are only as good as the content you put on them. If you think about the BBC, right? The BBC is just a set of cables with a license to broadcast. That's all it is. So what makes the BBC compelling or not, depending on your view, is the programs that it makes.
Yes.
So your website is dead space on the World Wide Web. Your Facebook page is dead space on the biggest social network in the world. Your YouTube channel is dead space on the biggest video network, etc. So you need content in order to make those channels work. Without content, they don't work. And I call that marketing operations because that is just, you need to feed that machine, and you need the plan. You need to know what you're doing. I say to people, you should have a wall chart so you're planning ahead, so you can bulk produce content. You just can't make a video a week, but you can make a few videos in one go and then put them out over a bit of time. So that's marketing operations, if you like, is part 1.
That's part 1.
Part 2 is marketing as brand, and companies need to invest in brand, and brand is very, very misunderstood. But brand is everything, because in a world of commoditization, people have more choice than ever before in most sectors, in most industries. Often we're competing globally when we used to be competing locally, because now people can access training globally, they can access all sorts of services globally. So, you need to up your brand, because the brand is the one thing that no one can take away from you. People talk about differentiation. And I say, well, differentiation's nice when you can do it. But what is much more important than differentiation is distinctiveness. And distinctiveness comes from brand. McDonald's and Burger King aren't that different. Coke and Pepsi aren't that different, but they're completely distinctive. You wouldn't walk into Burger King by accident. The McDonald's Golden Arches is one of the most famous logos in the world. So you need to be distinctive, and that's investment in brand. And the other thing that brand, and people don't understand this, because people all want lead generation. But brand drives lead generation, because brand works on a thing called low variance. And low variance is people don't buy things normally because they think they're the best. They buy them because they know they're going to work. Right? So I'll give you an example. Right? If you stop someone in the supermarket, all right, and you said to them, do you really believe Heinz make the greatest tomato soup on planet Earth? You actually think there is no better tomato soup anywhere on planet Earth than one you're buying in that tin? I think most right-minded individuals would say, no, that's not true. I'm sure there's better tomato soup. But the thing about Heinz tomato soup is they know it works. If I buy it, it works. The kids like it. It works. It's functional. It does its job. And I like it. It tastes okay. So the point, that's how brands work. It's the no one got fired for buying IBM thing.
Absolutely.
If you're the CTO at a company and you take a chance on Smith & Jones servers, right, and they go down, and everybody's sitting around the boardroom table and the company's hemorrhaging money because the servers are down, and you say we're using Smith & Jones, you're dead, right? If you say you're using IBM, everybody throws their hands up in there and goes, oh, IBM, who thought they wouldn't work, right? Therefore, all your sales activation activity is dependent on brand. So I always say to people, I'll give you an example, right? If I did a direct mail campaign that was amazing, and Apple did a direct mail campaign that was very average, right? Who do you think is going to get more opens? Apple. Why? Mine's better campaign. Because people know the brand. And this is what people don't understand. They often do lead generation stuff, and then they go, it doesn't work. And immediately they'll blame the channel. Well, direct mail doesn't work for our business. Or they'll decide maybe we didn't target the right people, or maybe the offer wasn't right. And of course, all of those are possibilities. But what I never hear in companies go, actually, the channel was fine, the messaging was fine, our brand's just not strong enough, so no one's interested, so they just throw it in the bin. I give rules of thumb. Rules of thumb are there to be broken sometimes, but they're rules of thumb for a reason. And there's 80 years of data on this, by the way. I'm not making it up. But about 60% of your marketing budget should go on brand.
Wow.
And most companies are nowhere near that, especially in the B2B world.
Yeah.
And B2C, it's different, but the B2B world, nowhere
Yes.
near. And then the last part is sales activation, which is the lead generation, which is the bit everybody wants. So that's the pay-per-clicks, the direct mails, the special offers, the social media advertising. And that's the bit that most companies are focused on because I want leads into the business.
Yeah.
And it's great, but without the support of media
This is underpinned by,
and without the investment in brand, actually you'll always be underwhelmed with sales activation. And I go into companies that are completely underwhelmed with sales activation and they go, tell us what we're doing wrong.
Yes.
And often it's go, actually, I'm not sure you're doing that much wrong there.
Yes.
You've got no investment in brand, so that's not being as effective as it could be. And they're really, if you get those three parts right, and that's not easy, but if you get those three parts right, then you've got a really well-run, functioning marketing, team in your business. So I would say to people, you should have a 12-month wall planner.
Yeah.
And on that wall planner, you should put everything. So public holidays, I mean, depends. Let's say you work in the UK, but you could work globally. So then you're going to put global events on there. But you want to put all the big sporting events, from the Super Bowl to, the Ashes cricket to Six Nations rugby to the FA Cup final, whatever. Put it all on there. Put all the school holidays on there because your clients have kids. Yeah. And so, school holidays, run your best campaign right in the middle of the school holidays. Probably not a good idea.
Yes.
So put those on. Then obviously industry significant things. So if there's particular shows in your industry, particular events in your industry, particular launches in your industry, then all the major public events, whether there's an election year for that particular country or whatever it is, big public events. So you put all of those on, and what that allows you to do, it doesn't mean you have to make content for everything, but it allows you to plan. Because, if you're in May and June and you're going, right, what videos are we making for September, October? You say, well, we've got that big show coming up for an industry event. We want to do some stuff for them. We've got the Six Nation rugby, and actually we've got a lot of rugby. We're in construction and a lot of our clients are rugby fans. So let's do something for that. Or a pub. Right. And we wanted to put something on for the Six Nations rugby. So you just start to get ideas and then you can plan because media works on planning. It's a very interesting exercise, by the way, that people watching this can do. Yeah. You should go out and buy. It's easy to do it with the tabloids. You can do it with a broadsheet. But go and buy a tabloid newspaper and rip out everything that could be written more than 4 weeks ago. And you'll be surprised how little you've got left. Right. Because you've obviously got the front 2 or 3 pages covering the news of the day. And you've got the back 2 or 3 pages covering the sports headlines. But actually, when it gets to the crosswords, the star signs, the special supplement highlighting X and Y, the holiday things, all of that stuff has been planned well in advance. So you get this bit of media that feels current. And of course it is, because it's got that day's date on it. But actually, the vast majority of it's been written weeks in advance, because you can't put out a newspaper every day in 24 hours.
And I think that's what frightens people when they think media. How am I going to be constantly coming up with the latest stuff? But actually, as you say, you can plan that well in advance. You work it through and you build a bank of it. Yeah. When you look at businesses, where would you say the main gaps are in those 3 areas? You mentioned brand, you mentioned operations piece there, and then you mentioned sales activation.
But in the business-to-business world, the big gap is that there's just a lack of investment in brand, and that's killing the business or the potential of that business. And unfortunately, most people don't realise.
Yes. I think when people think of business, particularly some of the SME leaders I work with, and they think of brand, they think of people like Apple, and they think, how on earth are we ever going to build our brand? We're an SME business in the UK or whatever. How are we going to build our brand to that level? But can you give us a bit more on what would you say is brand in that context?
So it's targeting.
It's not trying to turn yourself into Apple.
No, it's knowing who your audience is.
Right.
And that's, so I was with a company in a fast moving consumer goods world, right? So I can't name them, but they make condiments in that world, right? Yeah. And in that world, it's such a big market. They need, if they had 1.5% market share, it would be off the charts. Yeah. But that means, right, that 98.5% of the market is not their customer.
Yes.
So the reality is know who your customer is.
Yes.
And then message for them. Yeah. Be the champion for them and be in the channels that they utilize. Yes. And that doesn't mean you then have to be over every TV station on planet Earth at prime time, like people think, well, that's what Apple do and that's what Nike do. Yes. It might be that you just need to be to certain award ceremonies, and certain exhibitions, and to be featured in certain magazines, but niche titles that are fairly
absolutely aimed at your target audience.
Exactly right.
And that comes back to the clarity of who is our target audience.
Exactly right.
Really useful.